Hi, everyone. Thanks for attending another GoDaddy Pro webinar, or if this is your first one, then welcome, because we're glad to have you. Today we have Jonathan Wold and Gareth Allison joining us today from WooCommerce, and I'm going to let them tell you more about the topic when I introduce them in a few minutes. Before we do that, let's go ahead and get our shameless plug out of the way, guys. Do you want to go ahead and share your website URL in the chat, please? Who do we have here today? Hi, Neely. Hi, Bronca. Do we have anyone here who is shameless? Want to share?
Everyone's shy so far.
So shy. Jonathan, Gareth, do you guys have website URLs you would like to share?
I have a close personal project website that I do, kind of a side hobby. It's woocommerce.com. Folks want to look at
that? It's still early, but my daughter's site, jensenwold.com, she's 6, does it herself, and she's got her first e-commerce product up there.
How sweet. Well, we've also got Philip Levine here with sflwa.net, and we've got Robert Jacoby.
Hey, Robert.
Jacoby.com. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing, guys. We're going to go ahead and do the presentation first, and then afterward, we're going to have a Q&A. But in the meantime, feel free to participate and chat as much as you want. If you have a question, just drop it in the Ask a Question tab, and we're going to get to it after the presentation. In a few days, we're going to send out an email with a link to the recap of the recording. So if you wanted to rewatch or if you want to just read a quick recap, you can do that too. And at the end of the webinar, we're going to give you a feedback survey. So hopefully we can tailor our content to your needs. So usually we have Mike Chorba on camera here with us, but we only got 4 screens. So we kicked him off today. He's actually going to be in the chat with you. His name is Chorba, and he runs the GoDaddy Pro Twitter handle. So if you want to know what virtual events and other webinars we might have coming up, go ahead and follow him there on GoDaddy Pro on Twitter. All right. So Jonathan, we've got Jonathan Wold here from WooCommerce. You want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I've been in the world of WordPress for a little over 14 years now. I love WordPress. I've also been in e-commerce for quite a long time in a startup, done a lot of freelance e-commerce work over the years, and really excited to be part of the Woo team. I'm responsible for the community at WooCommerce, and we have a lot of great things happening across the ecosystem, and I'm excited to be talking about the builders and people who are building with WooCommerce today.
Awesome. We've also got Gareth from WooCommerce. Do you want to tell us about yourself as well?
Yeah, briefly. I've been with Woo for about 6 years now, back from the Woo themes days, and I kind of come from a front-end developer background. Background is the word I'm looking for. And
that's okay. I failed to say about half the words I tried to say today.
I like to combine words that. 2 smaller words into a bigger word that makes no sense.
I like to too. My wife doesn't like it when I do that, though.
Yeah. So what I do at Woo is I'm the brand, social, email, and content designer. That's just kind of a fancy way of saying that any sort of content that you see out there from WooCommerce, I usually have a hand in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, really excited to be here and chat with you all.
Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and jump back in really quick to let you guys know that I will be in the chat as well as GoDaddy. So if you see GoDaddy answering you or calling you out by name, that's going to be me, not some random weird bot. My name is Angela, in case I didn't mention it before. I do work here at GoDaddy with GoDaddy Pro. So I'm going to go ahead and let these guys take it away for you.
Awesome. Thank you. So, man, well, one of the reasons why I'm excited about this, we do a lot of content at WooCommerce that's focused on merchants and people just getting started. But today we're going to be focusing on people who are building with WooCommerce, especially for clients. And what we're hoping to do today is inspire you with some ideas about what's possible. We're assuming that most of you are newer to this. You're thinking about doing Woo, offering Woo to your clients, or maybe you've done a little bit and you'd like to learn more. We want to inspire you with what's possible and then hope to empower you to have more success in building with WooCommerce. Gareth, you want to talk about what we're going to cover?
Yeah, so I'll give everyone here a brief rundown about the subjects we're going to dig a little into today. We're going to start off chatting about e-commerce success and what that means. And then we're going to introduce you folks to both WordPress and WooCommerce, how they kind of relate to each other, before we move on to some recommendations and some insight as to how you can best choose a platform to build a site for your clients. And then we'll go into WooCommerce success, slightly different to e-commerce success, has a couple of different principles, challenges, and opportunities there. And then we'll circle back at the end for some Q&A with the rest of you.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited. Should we jump into it?
Yeah, let's do this. Jonathan, take it away.
Cool. So we're going to start out by talking about, well, and here's beautiful photos. You can see that I've cleaned up a little bit since that photo. Excited about that. And wow, there's that. And I'm supposed to be manning the slides, so I'll try to catch up a little bit for next time. So there's those slides. That's fantastic. So we're going to talk about e-commerce success. And the idea here, in my experience as a freelancer, and I've worked in the agency space, I've had the privilege of working with hundreds of clients myself over the years. I found it really helpful to have a way of talking about what it look, a way of guiding clients into how to think about what success on the web looks like. And for me, that boiled down to 3 basic principles. And it's the following: context, credibility, and a call to action. The idea that when you're designing the site, when you're putting together an experience on the web, you have just a few seconds to establish context to help folks know that they're in the right place. From there, you want to build that credibility and then make sure you have clear calls to action. These are principles that apply to the web broadly. And today I want to talk about them within the context of e-commerce. And my hope is to give you, as you're thinking about ways that you can offer Woo and commerce capabilities to your clients, and ways of being able to explain that better to them. And ultimately, you'll make it your own. But I found it really helpful for me and excited to get into it. So let's take a look at each of those principles. Context. So again, the idea here is that when someone visits a site for the first time, you have just a few split seconds to affirm that you're in the right place. And people are asking that question: am I in the right place? Do I stay? And we all know this from our own experience. If it doesn't sound like the right place, you'll get out of there, close that tab, and you're gone. It's really important when you're helping clients put sites together that the context is clear. I came across an example of this the other day with a friend of mine who's put together a new site. It's got a logo up in the top left corner in navigation, but the logo by itself didn't make it clear like what type of business it was or what they're doing. So a simple addition of putting the name of the business and a clear headline underneath that made, okay, this is this type of business, that's what it's here for. So the idea with context and why it's worth bringing out, it's easy to take for granted when you're working with a client who already knows their own business. They have that familiarity. You want to make sure that the site has that clear, immediate sense to the visitor. This is what we're about. You're in the right place. Once you've established that context, you want to make sure that you're helping your clients move to convey credibility. And the idea there is a visitor is looking at the site that, okay, I'm in the right place, but do I stay? Can I trust this place? Is this worth my time? Is there any value in engaging further? There's a lot of ways that you can establish credibility. And we're going to talk about this within the context of commerce, especially. If you are inviting people to if you're helping your clients create stores and sell things online, credibility is especially important. And in no particular order, some of the factors that I suggest that you as the builder keep in mind are performance, making sure that the site is loading quickly. If it's slow, that's a definite hit to credibility. The design, the aesthetic, how does it look and feel? Is it consistent with the brand and the context that you've established? Photos and video are a great way of conveying credibility by showing off a product, maybe showing some behind the scenes or just kind of giving additional context. The copy itself, making sure that it's legible and it's clear, that it explains things, that their basic questions are answered. Reviews is another good example, and especially nowadays, we're overall losing more trust for reviews, but there's still a factor. So making sure that if you have reviews up, that they're believable, that that they're appropriate for what you're trying to use. Accessibility is another big one, and it's a broad term, means a lot of different things. One of the most basic ways to think about accessibility is ensuring that you're designing an experience that works across the wide ranges of devices people might use to access the site, right? If someone loads up your site on the mobile device and the layout's broken, that's a significant ding to credibility. And the last one, one more thing that's worth mentioning, especially for commerce, is security. And without going too deep into that, we may touch on it more later. One of the most basic things is, your clients are going to often ask about, or you have the chance to point out to them, little things like the SSL and having that little padlock up at the top. That's par for the course. If you don't have that, they're going to see those warnings come up. And so some initial thoughts on how to convey credibility, and this will vary by client, but an important thing to be thinking about. Last is a call to action. And the idea there is, if you establish credibility, you've established context, there's credibility. One of the mistakes that I tend to see two things happen here. Either people have way too many calls to action where it's not clear what you want them to do, or none at all. And the heart of it here is, as you're working with clients, you want to make sure that you're intentionally determining what the next steps should be, that the call to action is clear. And I think from there, a few other things to convey that are specific to commerce. Within the context of having a clear call to action, it's important to look at how you can remove friction just overall from the checkout process. You want to make it as easy as possible to go from the intent to take action to having action on the other side. And then after that, the confirmation page, like once someone's completed an order, what do you invite them to do next? And there's more we could say on that, but Gareth, what's this WordPress that I keep hearing about?
Yeah, all right. So thanks for that. We're going to jump in and introduce WordPress to some of you. There's a good chance that some of you may have already heard about what WordPress is, and you may even be using it already. For some of you, this may be brand new. So we're just going to dive right into it. Basically, WordPress, it was initially regarded as a blogging platform when it first started in 2003. That's 17 years ago. Can you believe it? It's still around, still growing. And it's now widely acknowledged as a pretty powerful content management system, or CMS. Simply put, it's software that helps you create, manage, and share your content on the web. It's incredible because it's built by volunteers as well. And we like to think of it at WooCommerce and Automatic. We like to think of it as an operating system for the open web. It's got incredible market reach as well. I think it's over 35% of all websites on the internet right now are using WordPress. So if you open 3 browser tabs, 1 in 3 of those sites will be built using WordPress. And
that's crazy.
As I mentioned, it is mind-blowing, and it's still on an upward trend as well. It really is a solid foundation to build on, I feel. And if you're wondering, what does open source mean? What am I talking about there? What is the difference between open source software and closed source software? It's fairly simple to explain. I'll dive into it briefly. Open source software is software that's available for the general public to use. You can modify it from its original design. It's free of charge. Whereas closed source software it's known as proprietary software. The source code's not shared with the public for anyone to look at or change. An easy way to think of it might be an Apple versus Android situation, where one is a sort of a closed ecosystem and one is freely adaptable by a lot of other people.
And Gareth, I know we'll talk more about some of the trade-offs later, but yeah, I found this to be a really important concept in my years, like talking to folks and explaining. It's not something that clients will often think about or seem to care about at first, but I found that this concept of open source and kind of like something that you can own versus something that you're renting, at least in my experience and in talking with others who are serving clients, it seems like it's a really helpful concept to have in your toolkit as you're working with potential clients.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it's a great selling point as well. I mean, open source software, I mean, it really enables you to create any type of website you want. You can take it in any direction you choose. And WordPress being open source, it also combines simplicity for the users, the people that are using the site as well as building the site, right? It's
Yeah.
got some under the hood complexity for designers. But if you're the person who's managing the site, creating the content, publishing the content on it, it's still easy to use, it's still flexible, and it really is about empowering creativity for everyone, including non-technical people.
Yeah.
Um,
Hey, now you got these 4 freedoms up on the screen, and
that's right.
like I remember the first couple of times, it's like it didn't really hit me that much, like how important or how big of a ramification these are. And I think what I've found though is as when you explain them to people that like this WordPress that you're using, that you're building your business on, that you can do whatever you want with it. There's a confidence that comes with it. There's doubt. There's challenges as well, right? With how open it is. But
For sure.
for business owners, especially when you get into the world of commerce, because WooCommerce extends these freedoms, there's a lot of confidence that you can have in building and knowing that that foundation is yours.
Yeah, well put. I couldn't have said it better myself, actually. And those are the 4 freedoms of WordPress right there. And it basically sets out that you can modify it, you can adapt it, you can share it, distribute copies of your modified versions to others as well. So this is our foundation when we're building a website for a client. WordPress would be the foundation that you build on, and then we'll take it to the next step. And I'm going to introduce you to WooCommerce now, which is the software that allows you to take your WordPress site and turn it into an e-commerce storefront, pretty much.
What's this WooCommerce I've been hearing about?
So WooCommerce is a plugin that you install on your WordPress site. It turns your site into an e-commerce solution, pretty much. It's really tightly integrated with WordPress, and the benefit of that is you can combine commerce with content. And because WooCommerce is built on WordPress, adding e-commerce capability. If you've used WordPress in the past, maybe if you've been blogging or showcasing your business, it looks really familiar. It feels great, and it's far easier to use. It's kind of like putting on a familiar coat, I would say. And as with WordPress, WooCommerce is pretty widely adopted. Built With shows that about 24% of the world's top million sites are using WooCommerce, and that's approximately 3 times more sites than Shopify, according to W3 Tech's data. And as with WordPress, anyone can adapt it or build add-ons for it. WooCommerce is open source as well. And one of the great selling points of it is its unrestricted customizability. It's got some really powerful features right out of the box for free, such as payment options like Stripe and PayPal checkout. You can also do direct bank transfer.
Don't forget the new WooCommerce payments that just came out this week.
If you're in the US, you can also set up WooCommerce payments as well. There's no monthly fees on that. It's a really powerful tool. And that comes standard. That comes free in WooCommerce Core.
And more countries coming soon.
Yes, we should mention that as well, I suppose, right? It's a very exciting project. There's so much that you can do with WooCommerce just out of the box. Tax rates, inventory management, coupons. It comes with an analytics dashboard.
Virtual products. A lot of people don't know that you can do virtual and downloadable products just on stock WooCommerce right out of the box.
Yeah, that's right. And that's something that a lot of other e-commerce platforms don't offer initially. If you're shipping a physical product, that's great. They can cater for you pretty well. But as soon as you bring in sort of services and digital products, that's where WooCommerce can really shine, I feel. And it's also got a great global community as well. The REST API means developers can hook into it and build almost anything. You can integrate almost any service into it pretty much.
I'll do a quick community plug here. If you're interested in things like GraphQL as well, there's a community project that brings GraphQL to WooCommerce. It's WooGraphQL .org, I think it is. But because of how big Woo is at this point, there's so many great community projects extending additional functionality, bringing new pieces into the mix. It's a great time to be in that realm.
And sort of the final thing I say before I hand back over to Jonathan for our next section about choosing a platform is because it's built on WordPress, it's a really strong, robust framework that you can create a basic online store or extend it as you need, and you can get started affordably and customize it to fit almost any business need, really. Physical products, digital products, like we said, bookings, recurring revenue such as subscriptions, even niche products. One of the best sites I think I've seen using WooCommerce was a very niche products, a stock photography site that only sold photographs and illustrations of pineapples. I mean, that's a pretty niche business use case, but yeah.
Was any particular type of pineapples, like down to specific countries, or?
No, just any kind of pineapple was fair game.
Very specific. I love it.
Yeah,
that's great. One thing I think you mentioned the content and commerce. And I think that's a point that's really worth emphasizing. Like so many people, because WordPress has that focus on empowering creativity, especially for the non-technical, there's a confidence people feel about working with WordPress, and WooCommerce allows you to extend that confidence into commerce. And this is a pretty natural flow. A lot of people will start with content. They'll create an audience. They'll start providing value. And then there becomes this opportunity to introduce transactions with the audience that you've built. So I think as a builder, as someone doing this work for clients, it's important to remember that that's a big reason why Woo has so much traction, is because of that connection to the creation of content. And there's people who've come from other platforms who, like, the big thing for them is like, yeah, the commerce capability, and Woo has great commerce capability, but there may be others that have even sharper and more specific capabilities, but they really struggle in the content area. And I think that's an important thing for people who are doing this for clients to keep that in mind. Like, WordPress has done so well from my perspective because of its focus on empowering the non-technical, and WooCommerce, it just extends that into, for what is meant for many business folks is just a logical next step, is adding that commerce capability into the presence that you've helped them build for the web.
Absolutely. And you can do that in a real seamless way. Sorry,
Angela, go ahead.
Sorry about that. We had someone in chat asking if you were planning to touch on Jetpack in this webinar.
No, we can answer specific questions about it at the end, but
okay.
Yeah.
I'll call them to ask in the ask a question tab. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, sure. And just looking at this, anything that you want to say about the mission?
I do. So our main mission, as you can see there, the first point is to democratize commerce, and what that means is making it accessible to everyone, regardless of income, technical capability, language, geography, gender, age, what have you. And that's really, really, really important, is, it's making this accessible to everyone, like I said, is a really important part of empowering people to take control of their own livelihoods, take control of their own businesses, and really make their way the way that they want to do, basically.
This, to me, and I get the benefit of being in community work and just seeing firsthand what's happening in a lot of our different global and local spaces. And it's a mission that really resonates. People are, well, and it's worth pointing out, especially right now, like, we're seeing a lot more interest in people are, all right, what do I do? How do I provide value to my customers, even if I'm stuck at home? And there's a huge amount of growing interest in the world of commerce, and Woo at its heart has that mission. WordPress is about way that we put it as democratizing publishing. And for me, it's that idea of empowering creativity, and WooCommerce extends that into the world of commerce. And, and it's worth pointing out that there's a reason that we say commerce, not just e-commerce, right? Because
that's right.
We're increasingly seeing more intersections with the physical world outside of digital transactions.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool.
Do you want to jump in ahead and kick off choosing a platform?
Yeah, let's do it. So this is really interesting. you as a builder, as someone who's doing development work, design work for clients, are going to be in a position more often than not to have a varying degree of influence on the platform that gets chosen. And while we have a clear bias in favor of Woo, and I think for good reasons, I want to talk about some general principles for choosing a platform based on what we hear from people who build with Woo and our own experience. Before that, though, I want to talk about positioning for a moment. And one of the things that I found is I've talked to people who build on Woo, ranging from freelancers up to big agencies, is that I tended to see two types of positioning. You can either position yourself as or rather, clients will often perceive you in one of two ways, either as a trusted advisor or as an implementer. Trusted advisor is someone that they trust to guide them and help them make good decisions for their business. And the implementer is someone they trust to get the work done once decisions have been made. Now, I'm not arguing that one is better than the other per se. They both have their value. It's possible, for instance, to do both, to start out as a trusted advisor, and many trusted advisors will also implement. The other way doesn't often happen. That's worth pointing out. You don't usually start as an implementer and go to a trusted advisor. You're going to tend to have a skew, though, pretty strongly towards one or the other in your positioning and how people perceive you. As an implementer, some of the key factors that you're going to have in your success are how fast you work, the quality of your work, and your pricing. And the old saying, ultimately your clients have to pick two, right? They either want you fast and cheap, or fast and good and not cheap. And this isn't a bad thing. But I think what's important, where I see a lot of folks in the freelancing and the agency world struggle, is they don't make conscious decisions about their positioning. As a trusted advisor, your key factors are your ability to understand your clients and their problems, and then be able to guide them towards solutions. And I guess just my own bias, I recommend in general that you work towards being a trusted advisor. I think there's more opportunity to provide value, and just some quick tips on that from my experience and what I've seen work from others who have done that really well in the space. It's important to make sure that you're always learning. Showing up at a webinar like this is fantastic. Always be looking for new things to learn. Be curious, and then share what you learn. That's one of the big keys that makes the flip from someone who's just an implementer to being a trusted advisor, is learning and then taking what you learn and sharing it in a way that inspires and empowers others. And that's something that clients will often recognize. In my own freelancing career, the majority of people who reached out to me, of the hundreds of clients I got to serve, were people who reached out to me because of things that I'd written, guides that I'd created on how to do things. I'd established myself as someone they could trust. So with that, I want to offer some guidance on some of the areas. So when someone comes to you to choose a platform, there's a lot of things that go into this, but just based on our experience and what we see, these are some of the biggest factors that come up that I think are worth discussing. And the first, and it's more of like an overarching in general, but important enough to just put in here to start it out, is making sure that you're clear on the problem that your client is trying to solve. What's the value that they're trying to offer? So when you're looking at going into commerce, how are they wanting to offer it? It's like, this is very sort of dependent. There's a lot that could be said about this. I just want to call this out at the beginning, that to do your work well as a freelancer, it's really important, I suggest, to be very clear on the problem that you're trying to solve. And a great example is oftentimes clients, and they're coming to you, especially if as a trusted advisor, they don't know what they need yet, and they're looking for someone they can trust to help them figure that out. But they do know the problem that they're trying to solve. Or if they're not clear on it yet, by working with you, they can become clear on it. And then that becomes the starting point for all the guidance that's to follow. Now, within the realm of platforms specifically, these other four factors. So again, before you go into a platform, you want to make sure you're clear on the problem they're trying to solve. There's situations where Woo may not be the right fit. Or it may be perfect, or there may be something else that's even a better way of handling it. It's important that you're clear on what they're actually trying to do. So for the rest of them, first is complexity, and this isn't in any particular order. These are the themes that we see come up when we talk to builders. complexity. How complex is the situation, is the solution rather, that your client is wanting to provide? The service that you're helping them build, the products that they're selling. Are you dealing with subscriptions or appointments of factors, physical goods, or the virtual goods? Is there a mix of things? What's a fulfillment going to look like? What type of functionality do they need? Make sure that you have a good handle on the complexity of the solution to the problem that they're trying to solve. Another factor is experience and oh man, there we go. Another factor is experience. And the idea there is being clear on what your client has to work with. How much familiarity do they have? We made the point earlier about WordPress and WooCommerce. It's a big plus if they're already comfortable with WordPress. Then WooCommerce is probably going to have a pretty significant advantage over other platforms, and from you making a recommendation because they already know WordPress. If they don't know WordPress at all, good news is that WordPress is easy to learn, but it's something that's important to be conscious about. What kind of capability do they have as a team? Is it an individual rather, or is it a team that's working with this? So looking at the experience that your client has and is an important factor in helping them choose the right platform. The next is control. How important is autonomy to your clients? And again, this is one of the ones it's worth pointing out. We have a strong like open source, open web bias here, right? Like I personally, I'm a big fan of some of the things that these proprietary platforms enable you to do. Ultimately, though, I don't want I don't want my kids to grow up with a web that's only the proprietary platforms, right? So that's, for a lot of clients, that's not a forefront thought, but they do care about control and autonomy. So you can talk about the convenience of renting versus the flexibility of ownership, right? Like sometimes renting can help you get up and running quickly, a lot of upfront value. Ownership, though, means you're not locked in and you can grow where you need it to go. And then the last factor, of course, is cost. What kind of a budget does your client have to work with? And I think there's two ways to look at this. There's the short term, like figuring out what's the priority. Do you get something up and run quick, or do you build it to last? And long term, what's the trajectory of their business? Where are they trying to go? If you have this clear sense that their needs are going to perhaps start simple but get very complex, you want to make sure that you have confidence that the platform that you're recommending can go there. So these are some of my high level thoughts for you as a builder, as you're working with clients. If you're going to make that move towards becoming a trusted advisor, you want to make sure that you have a clear understanding of the different factors and that you're helping guide clients through. I suggest that you take these, make them your own if you haven't already, write about them, and use these points in conversations with your clients to serve as an educator, teach them, help them just learn more. And that's so much of the heart of how you get yourself into that trusted advisor position, is teaching and helping them make better decisions. Back over to you.
Yeah, that's such a good point about making the best decisions for the client as well. And if you have decided that you're going to go with WooCommerce and the client is happy with that, we're going to touch on a few factors that will help you achieve success using WooCommerce for your client. And there's a couple of things that we found that are quite influential in determining whether your site can be a success. Number one, absolutely reliable hosting, as I'm sure our friends here at GoDaddy will agree with me on as well. E-commerce is typically a little bit more resource intensive. Let me try and say that again. Resource intensive. Say that three times quickly. It's a little bit more dynamic than regular content sites. The databases tend to be a little bit bigger. Caching.
You mean to say databases?
Yeah, the databases. Yeah, absolutely correct. And when it comes to hosting, the truth of the matter is you do get what you pay for. The amount of traffic that your store can handle is largely dependent on your hosting environment. And if a server is unable to handle your site as it grows, then you could have a major problem as you go on.
I'll agree with that point that you get what you pay for. I think it is worth pointing out that one of the things I've loved seeing, and folks like GoDaddy have done a great job of this, is adding additional value, because the raw costs of delivering quality, like hosting from a technical perspective, are going down. Mm-hmm. So, but where the opportunity tends to be is in just the overall experience, because when you choose hosting, you like that's an important piece of the puzzle, right? Like you could download WordPress to your computer and that wouldn't be much like good, but you could do that, but you often want someone to do it for you. And what I love about what's happening in the industry is that as the technical costs are going down, hosts are looking for more ways to provide value. And anyway, agreeing with the point, but I think one of the misconceptions that I've seen with folks is like the overall costs are going down. It's becoming more accessible.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's completely right. And you know, those features are increasing. The experience is getting better and better with all these hosts. You know, you don't just get a space on a host anymore. You get dedicated IP addresses, you get SSL certificates bundled in, uptime monitoring, support and security, things like that. The next step after reliable hosting is you got to pick a good theme for your website. Now there's a ton of themes out there. There's hundreds of thousands of themes, and the theme landscape is actually changing in WordPress as well. It's very important to choose a theme that allows you the ability to switch later on without having you locked in. It's important that this theme has full support for core WordPress features, and full site editing is definitely something you should be looking at. You know, themes should not be thought of as like a one-click solves all problems type of things. You should treat them as a design system and not a feature set, because the features, they come from plugins. The themes just make them look beautiful. And in WordPress and WooCommerce, there's a thing called Gutenberg blocks, which are it's kind of ties into what we mentioned earlier about combining content with commerce. These blocks are one of the main reasons that we're able to do that so well. And these blocks do the heavy lifting. So your theme has got to be able to accommodate them really well too.
Before you jump to the examples, man, so themes. So I'm drawing from a pretty rich range of experience. I've worked with a lot of themes over the years.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
And I think, well, if I imagine like many folks, I had my favorites, and the ones that once you get into kind of a groove with it, you like to do the same thing. And I think it's worth pointing out that we're in a kind of a difficult time. That on the one hand, there's so many great, like there's a lot of great tools that have come up to solve some of the problems. There's different builders that have addressed some of the gaps in core. But then you also have all this work going into Gutenberg, and I feel really confident in the future of Gutenberg and what's happening there. So we're in this interesting place right now. It's like, what do you as a builder bet on? And I think I would just say before we get into recommendations that there's going to be pain here in learning and adapting, but it's also a tremendous amount of opportunity and for you as a builder to do some of that upfront work, because clients they don't know. Like people will come to you with, hey, what about this one? What about this one? You want to be able to have known your stuff and be able to give good guidance.
Yeah.
That said.
Yeah, so we're going to recommend just a couple of themes quickly. I mean, there's a ton of them out there, but these are three that we have an affinity for, really. And the first one that we're going to share is called Go. It's made by our friends here at GoDaddy, and it's available for free on the WordPress.org repo. It's pretty flexible. It's a block first theme, which is what we've just been talking about. That's a really good thing. And it's powerful, simplistic, clean, and bold. And I encourage you to click through to that link and you can go through a demo. It's pretty customizable, I feel.
I've used this for quite a few just like personal sites or recommended to friends. I've seen folks build on this with the meetup. And what I love about it, and I appreciate that what GoDaddy's done is just investing in something that's good for the broader ecosystem. You don't have to be on GoDaddy to use this. And it's something that the entire community is benefiting from. It has good basic WooCommerce support, and I feel confident that it's going to continue to add more functionality and capability as it goes on. It's a great long-term bet.
Yeah, and good on them as well for making it free as well. It's a really powerful, clean theme. We both quite like it a lot, as you can hear. And the next one is one of my favorites, is Storefront, which is created by us at WooCommerce, created by WooCommerce core developers. It's a purposeful theme. It obviously has deep integration with WooCommerce, and it's a great theme to start out with and extend from there. It's a good solid base, and it's pretty easy to customize and extend. In my experience, as someone who's maybe not a back-end developer, more of a front-end developer.
Yeah.
And then the final one we're going to touch on briefly is the Astra theme, WP Astra. This one's really quick loading, it's light file size. It's created by the folks at Brainstorm Force. And this theme works really well with page builders, if that's something that you're into. Page builders like Beaver Builder or Elementor, Site Origin, Visual Composer. All of those.
We don't talk about that one. That's right, bad joke. Carry on.
Yeah, so those are just a handful of themes that we recommend. It's a good starting point for the site that you're building for your clients to sort of take it in whichever direction you choose.
Awesome.
The next point that you want to focus on really is quality extensions, plugins. I mean, there are hundreds and thousands of official extensions. WooCommerce extensions alone, there are hundreds of them out there. We sell them on our premium marketplace on woocommerce.com, but there are many available on other online marketplaces and the WordPress.org repo.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't stress enough with this point is that you get them from reputable sources, if not from us, if not from the woocommerce.com marketplace, because those extensions are vetted by us. It's an official seal of approval. And folks need to adhere to pretty rigorous standards to get those in there. I think that when you're looking for an extension, one way you can make sure that it's reputable is by checking the reviews, checking how often it's updated, how responsive the developers are to support queries, questions, and also that they're compatible with the latest version of WordPress, I think is pretty important. Those are sure signs that an extension is a good choice if it adds the functionality you need. If something goes wrong, you can get it fixed.
Yep, and I would just add here that one thing just to watch in general, there's a lot of investment happening in the marketplace right now on WooCommerce.com. The team is growing there. A lot of good. There's more things. There's more extensions coming online all the time. It's one of the I'm getting ahead of ourselves. Yeah, we'll talk about challenges and opportunities in a bit. Carry on.
Yeah. And like we said, it's important that these extensions, they adhere strictly to WordPress coding standards, follow best practice guidelines, and that ensures that they don't do anything malicious or underhanded, spam links or weird upselling services, nothing underhanded, and they're consistent with the WordPress experience. They use actions and filters. That's pretty important. And then the final point here is support when you need it. Sometimes things go wrong and you need to know where to go. If you're building a WooCommerce site for your clients, you need something fixed quickly. You've got to know what the options are available to you. We do have official WooCommerce support, which if you buy a product from us, you're entitled to a full year of support for however long your subscription lasts for. And we also have pre-sales questions as well available through that channel. The second one is the GoDaddy
just real quick,
Pro.
On the first, I just want to, so anytime you join Automatic, you do a support rotation. And once a year, we encourage that. So for me, when I joined, I got to spend 2 weeks doing Woo support. And it blew me away just how amazing those folks are. And it's something to definitely keep in mind. And I know we'll say more about the community, but just like when you're getting into this open source world, like you want to make sure that you have good support systems in place. And I've been very encouraged to see just how incredible the folks doing the Woo support are.
Yeah, and it may sound glib or trite, me saying this, but there really are dedicated folks who really do care a lot about open source and about, if you're submitting a support ticket, these people aren't trying to fob you off with an easy answer. They really do care and they really do great work. I can't say enough good things about our support, or happiness engineers, as we like to call them at Automatic. And the GoDaddy Pro community is also a great place to find support. It's actually made up of a bunch of different forums tailored to certain subjects. There's a WordPress forum in there. There's the last I checked, I think there's more than 2,300 posts in there. That's quite a lot. It's pretty active as well. And if you are using GoDaddy as well, I think that should be one of your first stops for sure. And then finally, the WooCommerce community, which, I mean, Jonathan has a lot of experience in as the community manager. I've had some experience previously with our community. And that is, as Jonathan mentioned, it's an exchange of information. People are learning, but people are also sharing their knowledge in there. And
it looks like
there are
I
a couple
made
of different channels in there that you want to speak a little bit more on this, Jonathan?
Yeah, it looks like I made a mistake on the Facebook one. So if you're on Facebook, you just search for WooCommerce community and that takes you there. And then, there's a lot of great channels. And I just really want to encourage folks, especially right now. So our meetups program is our in-person meetups is suspended until further notice. There are, however, fantastic WooCommerce meetups happening around the world virtually. So if you're not already part of the WooCommerce local community in your area, either join one that's there or start one. We're always new ones are coming up all the time. So I feel like my job in community is easy because of how just incredible the community is and the things that people are doing and the ways that they're helping each other. And it's all goes back to that mission. Community is all about democratizing commerce, making it, helping like inspire merchants with what's possible. It's very merchant focused, empowering them to get things done. And it's ultimately paving the way for more merchants who are having more success and then looking for folks like you to help them take it further.
Yeah, and these meetups are taking place all over the world: Africa, North America, South America, Europe, Asia, Australia, New Zealand. It's incredible. I think we have over 60 of them now.
Yes, and more coming online all the time.
Yeah, and the Slack channel is the other one I want to encourage you with before we move on to some of the challenges. We have a monthly chat in there, a community chat, where you can give us your feedback and also, make recommendations for, upcoming WordPress features, add your voice, and just really make it your own.
Great point. The next one's coming up next week, actually. There'll be a new post on the WooCommerce blog, the developer blog, announcing that shortly. And would love to, if you're around for that time, would love to have any of you there. Yeah.
So we're going to finish up chatting a little bit more about some of the challenges that builders may have to work with in WooCommerce as they serve clients. Sometimes there's it can be overwhelming. There's so much choice. There's too many choices. So many voices telling you which way to go. There's a ton of themes. There's a ton of plugins, and it can sometimes seem a little unclear as to where you should start. Do you dive right in and set up products on your homepage, or do you delve into adding functionality first? And we do have guides available on WooCommerce.com that also have goals that can walk you through this process. And you can use these guides, such as things like the first things to customize, how to go about setting up your store in the right order. Another challenge is there can be a little bit more upfront work with WooCommerce than, say, compared to a SaaS offering, a software as a service offering, proprietary software that usually does everything for you. You don't have to think too much. It selects all the choices for you because it's so customized. WooCommerce is so customizable and extendable. There can be a little bit of a learning curve for beginners compared to proprietary software, but the benefits far outweigh that initial learning curve, in my opinion, and it certainly gets easier. And some common issues that builders may run into are things like theme conflicts, plugin conflicts, out-of-date themes, or out-of-date versions of WordPress or WooCommerce core as well. So it's not without its challenges, but as Jonathan will show you with the next slide, bada bing, nice synchronicity. Those challenges also equal an opportunity for builders. These challenges are far from insurmountable. So you may be wondering how you, as a builder, take those challenges and turn them into opportunities. And I would say really learn the platform, study the documentation, get involved in the community, take part in our community chats, attend an online meetup, because this will give you the confidence to act as a guide, to act as a trusted advisor, as Jonathan was mentioning a little bit earlier. And that will really, I feel, help you get past any challenges that you'll probably encounter when building a site with WooCommerce for a client.
And be part of the community. They're one of the things that I've drawn so much value from personally over the years, and really the reason why I've been in WordPress all this time is the incredible community. We're humans; it's imperfect. You'll find people like there's always, especially as WordPress and Woo grow, there's always going to be negative experiences as well. But on the whole, because we're aligned in this mission and this just open source way of doing things, there's a lot of people willing to spend time and energy helping, and it's incredible. And make the most of that, be a part of it, and join. Contribute.
It's a large community as well, let it be said. I don't think we've really touched on the size of it as well. The WordPress community and the WooCommerce community is large. And I've had some of the best experiences. I've learned some of the best things that I know about WordPress and WooCommerce have been through the community, and maybe not necessarily through a more, what would I say? How would I describe it? From like, I want to say book learning, I guess.
Sure. Yeah.
From like, let's say courses or things like that. Not knock those things, but the community, it's incredible how many people are willing to help, willing to share their knowledge and time. It really is a valuable resource, invaluable.
And that's a wrap.
Yeah. So hopefully we've got time for a couple of questions with you folks. I'm
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
sure if there's some questions waiting for us, Angela.
Yeah, there is one question waiting for us. I want to go ahead before we get started with those and let you guys have the special deal we wanted to share with you today. Gareth and Jonathan mentioned hosting for WooCommerce and kind of went over that with you a little bit. GoDaddy does offer a specific WooCommerce hosting. You're going to see a little button down below the screen here that says Get WooCommerce Hosting. You can get it for $1 a month for 3 months, just to give you a chance to try that out. It does come with the GoDaddy Go theme and also WooCommerce built in there, so you can get started, playing with WooCommerce and all the extensions and add-ons that they offer. We have a bunch of those in there for free, not the third-party ones, only the WooCommerce built.
So they're good.
Yeah, so they're good. They're legit. We want to make sure that you get those. And then we're going to go ahead and while we let you have a chance to do that, we're going to talk about these questions that we have here, or at least the one. And I might have a few for you as well.
Sure.
Give me just a second and I will show your faces on screen a lot larger. Hope you're comfortable with that. So we had a question from Christina, and she said, do you have to use Gutenberg blocks with WooCommerce, or can you use the classic editor? I think you mentioned that, but I'll let you talk about it a little bit more.
Sure, I'll jump into that. So no, you don't have to. I do recommend that it's the way of the future. But the great thing about WordPress and Woo is that you have choices. So you can turn it off. You can use the classic editor with WooCommerce. A lot of this tends to come down to what theme you're using and how well it supports it. Like Go, for instance, has great Gutenberg support out of the box. If you haven't experienced what that's like, I highly recommend trying it out. Or if you're into one of the builder, like the page builder plugins, they'll have their own ways of doing things, and those work quite well. And because WooCommerce is as big as it is, it tends to be well supported by the most popular themes. So you have choice.
Yeah, and I'd also, if you're on the fence about using Gutenberg blocks as well, the WooCommerce product blocks that come with WooCommerce they're incredibly powerful. It ties into what we mentioned earlier, that combining content and commerce situation. I mean, some of the blocks that we have, I'm just pulling up some more examples here. You can add blocks into almost any page or post.
Yep.
You can
for your products, for reviews,
products by tag, products by specific attributes, featured products, top rated products. There really is almost no limit to how you can combine your content with your store, and I think that's a really powerful attribute to have. So I definitely encourage you to investigate that first. But as Jonathan said, it still works with the classic editor. It's still a great way to sell online.
So I was curious when you mentioned themes, and either one of you can answer this. What was the very first theme you used with WooCommerce?
Whoa.
Try to think back. I'm not calling you old.
Here you go.
I know that it was probably an old Woo Themes theme called Canvas.
Yes, Canvas.
That was one I used for a couple of clients when I was freelancing as well. And sadly, no longer with us. It's no longer updated. But that is a site that I used on quite a few. A site that is a theme I used on quite a few sites, and and then a couple of the other older Woo themes.
Yeah.
What about you, Jonathan?
I think it's Canvas as well. Now that you I'd forgotten. It's been so long.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, and that's the probably the big one. I've used a lot of different things with Woo over the years. Canvas is probably where it started.
Yeah.
So Adam Warner called out Kubrick. What is Kubrick? I'm not sure I've heard of that. Do you guys know what he's talking about?
Kubrick is the original WordPress theme.
Is it?
One of the original ones. It was one of the
Here
first.
I am. I don't even know my WordPress history.
Yeah,
I think it's 1.5, or 1.2 or 1.5. Kubrick. I mean, I still feel positive feeling. I mean, it's mixed. There's been so many spam sites out there that use Kubrick that I have a bit of a negative association, but like so many good memories of working with Kubrick. It was one of the original themes for WordPress.
Yeah, Adam, looks like I completely missed that as a joke, just straight over my head. Like, what is this theme I've never heard of?
Okay, WordPress has been around a long time. You know, it goes back a long way.
Well, I think that's about all we have time for. We only have a couple minutes left here, and I wanted to tell everybody that you guys are going to be back with us next week. I want to make sure everybody knows about that.
What?
Yeah. We're actually doing 3 of these. So next week, you guys are talking about how to get started with WooCommerce. You're actually going to go into that a little bit more. Right?
Yep.
Yeah, so if you guys wanted to see the next one with Jonathan and Gareth, then you can go ahead and sign up for that, RSVP to that. And also the third one as well, because they're going to be building a site for a specific vertical. Or, well, maybe not from scratch, but they're going to be showing you a site for a specific vertical.
Yeah, and
I will put that on you guys.
It's worth pointing out again, too, that we're doing this through the lens of people doing this for clients. So we'll be demonstrating things, but not just here's how to do it for your store, but talking about the things that would be helpful to know if you're setting this up for clients.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you wanted to do that, you can check it out here on Crowdcast. We already have those events up and ready to RSVP, but you can also follow us on Twitter at GoDaddy Pro, because we're going to be sharing those events on our Twitter as well as other virtual events, as I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar. I also have an ask of everyone here that's still online with us right now. If you wanted to give a little bit of feedback on this link here, x.co/webinarexp, you can tell us how we're doing, and then we can improve these and make them a little bit better for you. Anybody have some last thoughts? Jonathan, Gareth?
No, I think no. It's great. I'm excited about the chance to go into this further in the coming weeks, and I don't know. It's a great time to be in the world of building for clients. So yeah. I'm excited that people are interested in commerce, and there's a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Couldn't say it better myself, Jonathan. You're stealing all the good lines.
You probably could.
He'd say it in a way that would make us laugh.
Just say it in a different accent.
That's much nicer. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, everybody, for attending. Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks, Gareth. And we'll see you next week.
Sounds good.